right, thank you all for joining. I'm going to do my best here. So 24% of apps that are downloaded are only used once. In fact, 88% of online stores are actually abandoned mid-purchase. And 32% of apps, people will leave these apps after having one bad experience. Now, I know you're all here because you're curious about the process of building an app. And I don't want you to be one of those statistics. And in fact, everybody and their grandma has an idea for an app. My grandma certainly has an idea for an app. But she's taking it to the grave with her. Maybe it'll be in her will. I don't know. So today we'll go over the 9-ish steps for how to build an app, because I want you all to be equipped with the knowledge. Honestly, the knowledge is out there. You don't really have to buy a course for it. So let's get into it today. So I don't know how many of you work out. When I was in college, I went to Planet Fitness. I was a newbie, I promise. You know, there's really something interesting and unique about Planet Fitness's marketing and branding. So in 1993, Rick Burks is quoted as saying, "I did not want to be part of that crowd anymore, so that's when I created the original Planet Fitness location in Sunrise, Florida." Now, just a year before that, in 1992, Michael and Mark Grondel acquired a Gold's Gym franchise in Dover, New Hampshire. Now, that didn't work out too well for them, so the next year they created Coastal Fitness. Now, a little bit further down the line, in 2002, they acquired the name Planet Fitness from Rick Burks. Rick Burks got the idea for this from his daughter's school project called Fitness Planet, right? Today, Planet Fitness has 2,400 locations in multiple countries, making it one of the biggest gyms in terms of locations and people. So there's something we can learn about their unique branding. Now, if you've ever been inside of a Planet Fitness, you're aware of something called the lunk alarm in the judge-free zone. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've actually had the lunk alarm used on me once before. I might have dropped the pin. They didn't like it. And so the idea of the lunk alarm is that many people in Planet Fitness go there because they're uncomfortable in traditional gyms. They don't like the big bodybuilders carrying around the gallons of water. This is a safe space for them, right? And so the lunk alarm is this air raid siren that will go off and it might give you a heart attack. But it's there to let you know if you're being a little bit too lunky. Now, you may or may not agree with the marketing. I know I certainly don't. But there's something that we can learn. They were able to get into a very saturated market. Gyms are all over the place. And they were able to capture a large segment of the market. Rick Burke said he did not like the traditional gym crowd, so that's why he created this. And he found a lot of like-minded people that are now going to Planet Fitness and getting like pizza and donuts on Fridays, right? So let's talk about that a little bit. We'll get into the first step here, and it's the idea of finding your audience, targeting your market through some basic research. Now, studies from PwC suggest that companies that perform market analysis or competitive analysis can have 69% faster growth. And really, competitive analysis isn't exactly maybe an exact science, but there are many steps that can help you to understand how your competitors are successful. So there's really 2 questions that you want to try and answer, or at least get insight into. So the first one is, how are my competitors finding success? And the next one is, what is annoying consumers about my competitors, right? How can I break into that market and offer them a unique experience maybe that they're not currently having? And so again, it's not really an exact science, and really, there's a lot of competitor websites out there that you can analyze and start to learn from. There's a lot of consumer data, a lot of consumer reports and statistics for you to pour over to start to get ideas about how to implement your app properly. And so when you're analyzing some of this different data and these statistics, you can get a bird's eye view into what they're doing. Now, you're not going to get all the secret sauce, but you can start to at least get some ideas for how to operate within the guardrails of how to be successful in your own app. So you'll be able to peek into their SEO tactics. You'll be able to see how they're performing their advertising. You'll understand how they're utilizing social media. And these are all things, for better or less, that you can kind of sort of steal and tweak to be unique in your own business. And so there's a lot of ways that you can actually gather information. First, you really want to step into the shoes of a consumer. And so you want to start to research the different products and features that your competitors are using on their actual websites. You want to document these and be very specific about the things that they're doing well, and then start to gather ideas about maybe things that could be improved upon. You also want to think about the user experience. Is the app very clean? Does it look good, right? Is it appealing? You obviously want to know about how they're pricing their products so that you can be competitive. You want to understand their marketing position. What is their branding and what is their actual market share? Obviously, you want to know what they're doing to hack the Google search algorithms and their SEO. Bing if you're a psychopath. And then, of course, consumer demographics. You want to know exactly who their consumers are so you can start to steal them, right? And then there's a lot of other ways that you can gather a lot of information. These are just a few. So there's a lot of tools for analysis out there, and these are ones that I actually use. I'll show you guys a lot of different websites and things that have memberships, but also free versions and things that you can start to dig into to help you in your own journey. So there's Statista, which offers insights and facts across 170 different industries and 150 countries. And this is one that I use every day. In fact, I might have found out something about you guys today using it. There's Google Trends, which is showing you exactly what America is searching for right now. I hope it's safe for work. And then also SpyFu. So this one's a little bit more SEO focused, but it's going to give you all sorts of data and statistics on SEO practices that companies are using. So you can see exactly what their backlinks are. You can see what some of their keywords are that are getting them a lot of traffic. You can understand a lot of the ads that they're paying for and how well those ads are doing and driving traffic to their site. So much information that you can pour over. And then of course there is the competitive websites themselves that you can look at, analyzing those product features, analyzing that user experience. So I've got an example for you today. So we're all Florida men and women, if you've been here for more than 10 years, okay? You have to earn that title. And so here's Statista.com, and I have an idea. Obviously, there's a lot of people that are moving into Florida now. And of course, they like the weather, right? I'm not sure how they'll adapt to the hurricanes, but we'll get to that point. They like the weather, so I think a lot of people will like outdoors activities. So I'm going to start to research recreational boating. That's a fun one. And so looking at Statista and just doing a basic search, I find that 11.77 million boats are registered in the United States. The majority of those are registered in Florida. And 11.1 million of those are actually mechanical boats. So I don't know anything about boating. I may not go the mechanical route. So some other statistics that I found out as well are that 20.5 million Americans went kayaking in 2013, up from 18.9 million the previous year. I'm kind of starting to like those numbers. And also 10 million people went canoeing in 2023, up 5% from the previous year. So maybe if I'm going to try and get into boating, maybe I should try and focus on the non-mechanical route. So now what's interesting is I'm going to start to look at competitors. So here we have Statista.com, and I see that after doing a basic Google search, BoatCenter.com is a massive competitor in the space. And there's several other competitors here as well that maybe I want to start to research. So now I've narrowed down who some of my competition is. So I can analyze what keywords that they're using that are driving a lot of eyeballs to their site. Backlinks are very, very valuable. This will really boost you in the search algorithm because it's going to give you notoriety. It's very, very weighted. And so I see that websites like Yahoo News, right? Like Yahoo, like Reddit, like Traction.com, I've never heard of it. But perhaps if I can get my site backlinked from these sites that get over 10 million views a month, I might start to get some good traction to my site. Profitable ads. Now, I don't know if you've been to Miami, but everybody out there is not a baller. So I think that non-mechanical boats will be great. It's certainly affordable for me. I cannot afford a yacht. So maybe if I advertise down in Miami, I'll get some good business. I'm really curious about the user experience of some of these sites. So going into this site, it doesn't look bad. It's kind of like that Airbnb look to it. I have a map on the side with pricing and locations of the boats. I have very, very clean UI here, a lot of open space and basic search, but I think that there might be something left to be desired if I'm going to go boating. So I've aggregated some basic data. I focused a little bit on the SEO here. So I see that some of my competitors, BoatCenter, GetMyBoat.com, Dockland.com, keywords, boat rental near me, boat rental, boating near me, boat, you see, you get the point. Backlinks, Traction, Yahoo, Axios, Reddit.com. If I'm going to serve ads, maybe I want to focus in highly dense or highly densely populated areas like Miami. And so for my feature analysis for some consumer pain points, honestly, if I were about to go boating, I would want to know what the weather is going to be. And I'd want it to be very convenient. So maybe live weather reporting on my website will be good. And then also understanding the boating locations of other paddlers if I'm getting curious. So now stepping away from the example, the next step. So I've gathered some insights. I understand exactly what the market is doing. I've learned a little bit from the consumers. I want to start to create a game plan and detail exactly what it is that I'm going to create. So we step into the project scoping phase. So this is a phase sometimes that may take weeks. You may partner with someone to really try and define the overview of what you're going to create. You need a good game plan and you need to detail your objectives. So there's really a lot of different ways that you can create a project scope. These are some of the standard fields that you might find yourself creating. So of course you have the project title, you have the overview, which is just a brief description of what you're trying to create. You have objectives. So you can think of objectives as high-level features explaining what the app will do. And then next I have scope items where I'm breaking down those objectives into very, very specific features to detail exactly what it is that I want to create. Now you may have some items that are good ideas, but maybe based on budget, maybe based on your timeline, you may not be able to fit those in your project, but I'm going to save those for later as my out-of-scope items. I also have deliverables, which are things that may be tangible or are intangible outcomes that I require to create my project constraints. So if there's anything that may affect me not being able to complete my project, I want to be aware of those. Stakeholders, people paying the bills, I have my dates, any additional signatures, etc. So next, I have a floor demand plan. So I like this idea of paddleless boats. So my project title is Alligator. Now my overview. Floor Demand Paddles is an app focusing on non-mechanical boat rentals. My objectives, Floor Demand Paddles will be, it's going to attract a lot of attention through unique branding. I'm really going to lean into the Floor Demand meme. So I want to provide a user-friendly interface for customers to browse, reserve, and pay for their boat rentals. And then I'm going to offer live services. I'm going to show them what the weather is, live locations of other boats. And then here are some of the items that I'm going to have for my app specifically when it comes to those features. So as you're reading these, you'll see it has a lot in common with the standard industry, and then I'm going to add a little bit of my secret sauce. I'm even going to throw a chat in there. So now further, for some of my deliverables, I'm going to need mock-ups. I need to understand what the app is going to look like. I'm going to need initial marketing materials. And then the constraints are, I'm not a baller, I only got 300K, all right? And then also the app has to be ready for launch in September. And then the team, I can't pay a ton of people, so it's me, myself, and I. So next we get into UX design. This is such a really, really important step. Apps nowadays are beautiful, they look good, they're very performant, and that's because a lot of time and research goes into defining what they'll look like. So at the outset, 24% of apps or upwards of 25% of apps are only used once after they're downloaded. A lot of them are actually removed from the App Store. 88% of people will leave online stores, and 32% of people may leave a brand after one bad experience. And honestly, sometimes a poor user experience can be part of the reason why a person may not come back. So we really are treating apps like books. And of course, you need to make a really good first impression. So we have to spend time on this step. But before you get ahead of yourself, it's important for you to understand what your brand is and for you to find your own brand positioning. So Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung was one of the most influential people in psychiatry. He was a contemporary of Sigmund Freud, who created psychoanalysis. Now Carl Jung himself is credited with being the creator of analytical psychology. And there's a lot of different keys to analytical psychology, but two that we'll focus today are persona and shadow. We'll focus on those today. It may be tempting just to skip this step and to jump right into creating your app, but this will really make a big difference because it's important for you to be unique in the market, to find the people that you appeal to. And so that's why you want to spend time on this step. So next, persona versus shadow. So I think we're probably all in persona right now. So persona is basically how we act when we're in public, when we get positive feedback from socially acceptable behaviors. Shadow is what we don't really like the world to see. Shadow are some of the things that sometimes, honestly, we're a little bit ashamed of. Not all shadows are the same. But the point is that oftentimes individuals in their own branding are trying to be generic and like corporations. And you know what? Corporations understand that they need to be more like individuals. So I don't know the first time you've ever seen a liquid death. The first time I saw it, I thought, this is really cool. I don't know what it is. I'm not touching it. It turns out it's just some water that you can probably get from Walmart. But now liquid death is in gyms. You can even find it in bars. So it looks a lot cooler to carry around a can with a skull on it than a water bottle. But what's the point? The point is being unique and living into your shadow. So some of those things that you may not feel so great about, you may be able to turn those into positive things and find your own unique branding. So it's really important just to be yourself when it comes to marketing. And then you may find that demographic that also agrees with you, similar to Rick Burks, Michael, and Mark Rondo at the outset. So next, now there's a whole process, and a lot of these steps will be very iterative when you're defining your UX. So first we have the mood board step. And the purpose of the mood board is really to inspire and evoke emotions. And you want to start to declare exactly the overall look and feel of your app from start to finish. You want your app to be very consistent to users. And you want the people that are working on creating it to have a general understanding of the direction that you're going so that you can all be on the same page. Next, we have the information architecture. And so this is really a step where you're organizing the data that you're trying to present to your users. And then you're trying to explain the hierarchy. You want the data to be very, very easy for users to find. You want the navigation to be very simple. In fact, I really define this as the navigation for the website. So you go to a website, you see the top navigation, these are the higher level features of the app. And then you go into the actual pages, and that represents the hierarchy overall. You want it to be very easy for users to identify what they need to do in your app and how to find it. Next, we go into our wireframe step. So it makes a lot of sense now that I've defined exactly what information it is that I'm trying to display to the users. I need to understand exactly how I'm going to structure it, how it's going to be visually pleasing. And so the wireframe step is very simple. It's going to be low fidelity. I'm not going to be too specific in the details. You see lots of squares, you see lots of grayscale, lorem ipsum. I'm not going to put too much content here. The idea is that I want to use that information architecture and simply structure the data in a visually appealing way. Next, I have my mockups, and there are several steps to creating mockups. Now, you can skip some of these steps and it's fine, but there's low fidelity, there's high fidelity, and then there's the final design. And the goal is now for me to put in the specific information, the colors, the branding, and this should be a representation of what my app will actually be. So a few tools for design that I actually use. One is called Figma.com. So it's a website for UX design. The goal is to actually work with teams to create your UX, and there's a large community. There's tons of templates, free assets, so you don't actually have to start from zero when it comes to your UX design. You can just grab an existing template and just start to plug and play. And then there's also Dribble.com. This is more of a social media community. It's a place for people to showcase their work. It's a great place for inspiration, and you may even be able to find freelancers that can work for a little bit cheaper and do some of your UX for you. So back to my Florida Man plan. So I've been thinking about this a little bit. And so for my brand positioning, I'm going to really lean into the Florida Man meme. In fact, I'm even going to have boats themed after different Florida Man stories. I think this would be a great buzz on social media. I think it'll be a lot of fun. For the overall mood of the site, I wanted to have a lot of open space. I wanted to be modern minimalist. And I wanted to have orange accents to be very, very welcoming. I think this definitely fits in well with the Sunshine State. And so I'm addressing a few consumer pain points that I personally have identified when looking at the app. So live weather forecasts, I'm going to have a live map showing where other Florida men and Florida women paddlers are, a messaging system for them to chat with each other, and I'll even tell you where the alligators are because I want to create some more Florida man stories. Yeah. So here is the UX that I put together. So obviously it's a mobile app. Here is my mobile listing page for my boats. So right now there's 250 boats and gators in Miami, trying to find one. And so here's a beautiful canoe, a very, very standard look here. Bath salts is the name of this canoe. And so now if you choose to purchase this canoe for a rate of $110 total, here is what you're going to get. So you'll be able to know how much longer you can rent the canoe. You'll be able to know how many people are in your area. So right now I've got 5 canoes within 10 miles. I see it's 90 degrees and sunny. There's not a hurricane out there, so it's safe to go, but some people still do it, right? I'm sharing my location so other people can come and hang out and party with me. And now if I hit that map button, over here towards the end, I see a map with live locations of other paddlers. This app doesn't exist. I just want you guys to know that. All right, if you didn't know already. I can see live locations of other paddlers and gators if I want to go wrangling. All right? Cool. So next we have the project management step. So I'll be honest, it's kind of boring. But it's very important to be specific now with what it is that you're going to create. So the project scope step is really just the overall game plan. But now I need to actually start to detail exactly what it is I'm creating so that I can accomplish this properly. So I want to understand exactly how my app should behave under good circumstances, which we sometimes call happy paths, and under circumstances maybe that aren't ideal, which we call non-happy paths. So I'm very detail oriented, and I'm going to detail exactly all the things that the app needs. I'm going to create those. Now there's a lot of different styles of project management. What I want you to take away today is that you should just pick the one that works for you. Now Agile is very, very common nowadays. There's a few tenets of Agile. It's collaboration, customer feedback. I want to be flexible, and I want to iterate rapidly on my project. I want to be able to respond to change from whoever it is that I'm creating the app for. But pick the one that works for you. I would say in the early stages of a project, Kanban is probably the style that works best. So Kanban in Japanese just means visual card. And so on my project management board, I'm simply using visual cards to detail all the work it is that I need in order to get my app through the door. So my Florida Man Paddles example right here. So here's my Kanban board. I'm using Trello. It's a free one, but of course if you pay, you get some extra functionality. So I'm actually detailing a lot of the different features that I've identified. I'm showing images of what it should look like, and I'm just giving other details. And then also I have high visibility into the status of my work. So from to do all the way through done. This is what Kanban is, and it works really well. If you have a bigger team, maybe Scrum works or other styles of Agile. But again, do your research and just find out which one works best for you. So hiring, the part that we all like to talk about. Yeah, everyone loves spending money. You know, everyone may not be in a position to hire. So we'll talk about if you are in a position to hire and what you may be able to do if you're not in a position to hire. And in fact, Fred is a good example of that. He's actually used some different apps to build his app, and we'll see it's looking really good. And so right here, you know, hiring professionals does cost a lot, but hiring amateurs can often cost more. So Knight Capital Group was an American global financial services firm engaging in market making, electronic execution, and institutional sales and trading. In 2012, Knight was one of the largest traders in the United States, having a 17% market share in the New York Stock Exchange and in the NASDAQ market. Their electronic trading group had a daily trading volume of 3.3 billion trades per day, totaling about $21 billion. Well, amateur mistakes happen. So on the morning of August the 1st, 2012, a minor mistake happened. An engineer forgot to copy their new retail liquidity program to one of their 8 servers. So they lost $440 million in a few minutes. I'm not making this up. So that mistake, which was easily found in hindsight, caused the system to generate a massive number of unintended stop orders. So for 212 incoming parent orders, they processed millions of orders against those in 154 stocks for 387 million shares for a loss of around $7 billion. Oh, Lord. Now I am being dramatic, I'm going to be fair, okay? But the point is here that you want to hire skilled labor. I've worked for a lot of different companies over the years, and in some of the scarier cases, it was sometimes near impossible to create new features in an app. The code was so bad that bugs became features. And so what this means is I'm not creating new functionality to try and attract new consumers or keep my consumers. I'm redoing something that I already created, and by then I may have lost a lot of consumers. So it's better to spend the money now to get quality up front. So in the long term, your app will be extensible. These are all programming terms. It'll be modular, and it will be easier for new people to come in and get work done a lot faster. But maybe you're a team of 1, and you may not be in a position to hire people to write code for your platform, and that's okay. So there's a lot of different no-code platforms out there currently that you can actually make use of. And so one of these is Bubble.io. It's powerful, it's easy to use. Another one is Software.io. It's great for beginners. DraftBit, a little bit more mobile focused. Builder.com, This one's for more advanced users. You get more control over your data and your infrastructure. And then there's backendless.com. If you're feeling a little saucy, it's an advanced system. You can actually write some code into this platform. But the idea is that these platforms are abstracting away the code from you, so you can drop and drag. You can design some things and not have to worry about the coding yourself. And this can really get you up and running. So there's options for everyone. So now I can't really claim to be much of a marketing expert, but there are some standard ways that a lot of companies perform their marketing. So there's email campaigns, may seem a little dated, but this can work for a lot of different industries depending on who your consumer is. Social media right now is the one that's all the rage. I can't tell you how many times I've seen BetterHelp on YouTube, and maybe I should start using it. But the idea is that these get a lot of eyeballs to their platforms. There's event promotions, SEO, which we've talked about a lot. So how are you going to hack the Google search algorithm to get your app to the first page? Because we know people aren't going to the second page. And then of course there's partnerships. Partnerships can be great. We've understood that backlinks back and forth are great ways to get eyes to your website as well. So now you've launched your app, and now it's time to figure out if our hypothesis was correct. Do people like my app? Have I solved some of those pain points and issues that they've had in other apps? So you want to use user analytic platforms to actually start to spy on your users and understand their behavior in your app. That way you can make decisions based on what you should improve, or maybe things that may not be used as much in your app. So some common ones that I've used, we have Google Analytics, we have Amplitude, and Optimizely. The next step is to actually start to perform A/B testing. So we want to make data-driven decisions on what we should create in our app. So really what this means is you may have two versions of the same thing in your app. You realize that for some reason you're having a lot of user drop-off, maybe in the cart. And you think, okay, well, I'm only having a total of 8% conversion in my app right now, and I want to raise that a bit. So I have an idea. Right now I have the sign-in process at the beginning of my app. Maybe if I put a one-click sign-in at the end of my app, people will stay around and make more purchases. So I'm going to divert traffic through this platform to these different use cases and see which one gets higher conversion. And at the end of this, I realized convenience works. So my experiment over here had higher conversions, so I'm going to get rid of this old version of the app, and now the sign-in is going to be at the end of the app. And I've increased my conversions. And so A and B testing is a great way to test different parts of your app or different versions of the same functionality to see which one is working better with users. And of course there's monitoring, so it's important to understand the health of your app right now. You want to be aware of any issues so that you can be proactive in fixing those issues. And so there's a lot of different tools out there that you can use. One that I use is called Datadog, a really big platform, but ultimately you just want to make sure that your platform is healthy and that you're being proactive in fixing issues that may be occurring. Now let's say you're suffering from success and you have a lot of people coming to your app. But as a result, you realize, well, I didn't plan too well for all of this traffic. And so now your app is performing a little bit more slowly. Users are getting frustrated and you're actually losing out on some opportunities. You may find that you need to scale up. Now you understand Fred and I met and we chatted about gaming. So for all my Helldivers out there, all right, for Super. You know, so when Helldivers came out, it was such a successful game, and they did not plan for as many gamers as they had. So they had to cap concurrent players at 440,000. Now that may sound like a lot of people, but when you have millions of people around the world that want to play and they can't get in, it's not a great experience. So fortunately they were able to fix those issues and scale up, and now it's not an issue. So there's a lot of ways that you can scale up your app if you are being very successful and having more users than you planned for within your infrastructure and your architecture. So one of those is horizontal scaling, we just throw more computers at it. There's vertical scaling, where I may add more resources to my machines, more RAM, more CPUs, more storage. There's load balancing, so I'm going to divert traffic to different servers. There's caching. So if there are very, very expensive computations or requests for data that take a long time, I'm going to store those in memory so that it doesn't have to be computed again. Other consumers won't have to take this amount of time to get to that information. Their pages will load up a lot faster. And then of course there's database optimization, so you can shard databases, you can improve query speeds. These are just a few ways that you may scale up, but there's a lot of options for sure. Why is it important? Well, we did discuss some different numbers. 32% of people may leave a brand after one bad experience. And that's not only based on poor UX. And so I'm sure we all shop on Wayfair. So Wayfair, the furniture giant, realized that in one of their studies, you could lose profit of upwards of 89% of engaged users from app crashes, and you may not fully recover. So we can just think about that 32%. So it's very important that our app is scalable, that it's not crashing, and that we're planning for the future. One other thing that we may have to be aware of is called availability. Now this one may depend a lot more on the industry, but say take insurance. So it's important for an insurance application to always be up and running. Even if there's a natural disaster, people need to be able to check their insurance. So Kubernetes is based on something that was created called Google, or created by Google rather, and you can ultimately think of it as a shell game that's controlled by a Rube Goldberg machine. But the idea is that you always want to have a server up somewhere that has your app available for people, even if they go down in one region. So finally, we have case studies. So you may or may not need these, but it's a great way for you to show that you are valid and that your app is making a difference. So testimonials are great on websites. It may be something as simple as a user explaining how your app has changed their lives, how it's improved things. We also have case studies that are done a lot more in depth. So these are actually full-on studies where businesses may bring you on and show the before and after for how your app has actually improved the overall processes. So those are the 9-ish steps for how you may create an app. And you got to see the Florida Man paddles, please don't steal my idea. So let's summarize here briefly. So we have competitor analysis. We want to understand at least how our competitors are doing well, and we want to understand exactly what consumers are looking for, what's missing right now from the competitors. We have the project scope, so the overall game plan. We have the UX design. Project management, I want to be very detailed in describing what I'm going to create. Hiring people, $7 billion, all right? But in case you can't hire people, there are no-code platforms that you can use. There's a lot of different ways that we can market as well. Social media is a very popular way to market. There's email campaigns, all sorts of things you can do. And then post-launch, I want to understand how my users are using my site and how I can make improvements. And then obviously scaling, if I'm suffering from success, I want to scale up so that my users are having a good experience. And then of course, there are case studies in case we need them. So thank you so much. My name is Jean-Baptiste. I've been a software engineer for about 12, 13 years now. I've worked in a lot of these different processes. I've seen the good, I've seen the bad, I've seen the ugly. You can think of me as like a marriage counselor for engineering. So please, if you guys have any questions, I'll be up front.
Awesome, thank you.